Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, I've got the C5 back up on the lift here, and the reason for that is I've been test driving it a bit. It's getting ready to hopefully sell it, but I'm noticing that it's got a pretty good oil leak coming from what appears to be behind the clutch. I would say probably the rear main seal. Kind of sucks because the person I bought it from said they did that, they replaced it, but the leak is saying otherwise. So it's not really a slow leak. It leaks so much that it gets on the exhaust and starts smoking, and I just can't live with it. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and tear it apart, drop the transmission out and the rear subframe, and get in there to the rear main seal. And hopefully that's all the problem is. All right, I figure I'll give you a quick rundown underneath the car, show you what we're doing here. So, as you can see here, I have the subframe bolts loosened up as much as they can go. Front one's completely off right here. I've disconnected the brake line from the caliper, and I've disconnected the upper control arm, the shock. All of the wiring is disconnected, and under here, there's some brake lines you disconnect because this portion back here is attached to the subframe. So that goes with the subframe, obviously. And there's the torque tube. And there's the flywheel and clutch. And as you can see, we have no access to the bell housing bolts presently. So let's see what we can do about that. Let's get it lowered down. All right, I forgot about the shifter, and it looks like that thing is causing some damage. Let's see. All right, so we're under the car, obviously, and our access to the bell housing bolts is even worse now. So I did a quick Google search, and it looks like people are saying you can remove these 5 bolts that hold the torque tube to the bell housing. So we're gonna do that. I'm still not sure how we're gonna get to the bell housing bolts, but we'll figure that out once we get this torque tube out of the way. Which I'm starting to wonder how we're gonna do, because it's obviously gonna have to be pulled back at least a foot once this part is disconnected in order to get the shaft that goes into the pilot bearing out. So I guess we're just gonna have to throw a jack underneath it and put a jack stand up front here, so that when we start pulling it back, the rear cradle I'm talking about, the torque tube has something to land on. I'm not real confident that that's a good idea, but we don't really have a whole lot of other ideas right now. Okay, I went ahead and lowered the car down some so that I can get the subframe onto my jack. And what I'm gonna do next is check the position of our jack stand under the car, and then we'll start pulling it back. See what happens. Okay. We basically want it to just be sitting on the jack stands ever so slightly. So the smaller the drop, the less chance that everything's gonna flop over and fall on the ground. So let's lower it down a little bit more. All right, it looks like we're about there. We're so low that I can't get the camera under the car. Actually, oh, we're good. Okay, yeah. Jack stand 1. Put it back here. As far as should go. Jack stand 2. Leave it about a foot back. Okay, and as you can see, we're already getting some separation here. You know, when you have a 2-post lift, have these dreams that you're never gonna have to crawl on the ground again. but fortunately that ain't the case. Okay, let's see what we're catching on, Johns. Seems like it's up here. Everything is free. Okay. I'm just hitting a bit, but it shouldn't be holding us up. I'm gonna try something here. There we go. We're free. We are free. That was fun. Okay. Watch this. We are. Well, I could totally see why the previous owner was having problems getting it to go into gear. We got the wrong bolts holding on the slave cylinder here. Look at this thing, it's loose. These washers aren't even tight in between the bolts. There's permatex all over them, what the hell? And that's not even all of the problems. Come back here, started jiggling the shifter. I don't know if you hear that rattling, but check this out. Look at that. This pin is sheared off that holds the shifter in place. Can you imagine if that happened while you were driving somewhere? Talk about a way to ruin your day. Wow. Okay. Looks like we got a few things to go through here. Something back here is leaking like a sieve. Don't know what yet, but we're gonna figure it out. Look at this, how much permatex this guy used. Jesus Christ. Okay. All bad. I'm almost scared of whatever repair he did inside the transmission. Seeing all this other crap. Wow. Okay. All right, well, my goal for today is to get this bell housing off and the clutch plate, flywheel, so that I can see exactly what's leaking and get that part ordered so I can have it before the end of the week and hopefully get this piece of junk put back together and move on to another project. I got plenty of them. Starting to think this bell housing is not supposed to come off. At least it kind of looks that way. I'm having a hell of a time getting it over the clutch. It looks like we're gonna have to drop the clutch first, so put it back. Well, more surprises. Previous owner seemed to love permatex. My goodness, look at, he's got the flywheel bolts held in with it. It's smeared all over the back cover. My God, it's in there with the pilot bearing. It's everywhere. Let's try and break these bolts loose. Look at this filth. This dude actually tried to use permatex to seal the rear main seal. My goodness. Wow. Ow. Look at all this fucking permatex. You know, I've always been of the opinion that people could do anything if they put their minds to it. They're just lazy. But after seeing some of this work here, my faith has seriously been shaken in that belief. It's just unbelievable. Look at how much permatex this guy put on here. Along with the original rubber gasket part that's right there. All around the rear main seal, because the rear main seal is installed backwards into this made in China rear cover, which means he probably got it with the seal installed backwards, I would assume. I would at least hope. I'm not even gonna reuse this piece of aluminum. I'm just gonna order a completely new one from Summit. And I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do about the oil pan gasket. I may just have to use a smidge of permatex, nothing like this. But geez, man, if you don't know what you're doing, maybe you shouldn't be touching stuff. Trying to separate the transmission from the differential because I'm noticing a pretty bad leak in that area as well. It looks like transmission fluid's coming out. And I know that the previous owner, he had told me that fifth gear grinded in this transmission, and that's why he took it apart to rebuild it. And judging by how the permatex holding everything together, just like the engine, I would say he was definitely in here. And I can't say I'm real confident in his repair inside the transmission, but it definitely drove pretty well when I took it for a rip before pulling it into the shop and seeing how much fluid was leaking out of it. So my primary concern right now is trying to separate the differential from the transmission to see if maybe the rear main seal on this is installed backwards as well. So I'm having a hell of a time trying to get it apart. He put so much dang permatex on this thing that I'm using this here pry bar in every location I can get it, and I'm just not getting any movement out of anything. So I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I might just have to get a bigger pry bar, I guess. Okay, so I found this guy in my toolbox. Not exactly bigger, but I can get a breaker bar over it or a leverage bar. So we're gonna give this a shot here. See what happens. Oh yeah, she's budget. Okay. And the bar's bending, but I heard the silicone starting to separate. So let's jump over this other side here. Oh yeah. I'm seeing it. I'm apart. Get this razor blade in here a little bit. Come on, baby. Jesus, this bar is gonna get bent in half. Okay, wiggle. There we go. Nice and easy. All right. Okay, so here's the clevis that I was talking about that I need to gain access to. I think what happened was the previous owner knocked out, oh, there's the other part of that pin that he used. So he went and bought some real cheap pin and attempted to do what I'm doing with stainless steel. But what you're supposed to do is punch out that roll pin if you want to remove this linkage piece. And I think he knocked this one out and ended up breaking it. Anyways, let me get my solution and show you what it's looking like. Okay. So check it out. This is the 5/16 bolt that I took. It's made out of stainless steel, like I said. This is what it slides through. And what I did was I just slid it through here, and I took my little, I believe it's called an awl, and I used it to kind of locate the center, right, of where I was gonna drill the hole. And I punched it a couple times, pulled this sleeve off, stepped up my drill bit size, and it went out flawlessly. Like, here's the cross pin that holds it locked in place, and it goes right through. So this is gonna work. So let's go get it measure it up for the right size, and then we'll cut the bolt down and get it installed. Set my Sharpie down. So this piece goes through here. All right. Our little pin device is gonna go like this. This will lock it into the other clevis. And we're gonna just go ahead and lop off the excess that we don't need, just so that it doesn't interfere with anything. And hopefully, because I'm making it out of stainless, it'll be a little tougher to break than, you know, this real cheap little, it looks like he probably got some kind of pin from Ace Hardware and attempted to enlarge the hole that was in it, because as you can see, you know, I'm pretty sure I've seen something like this at Ace Hardware before, and it's something you would use with like a cotter pin or something like that. And he just drilled the hole out, but you can see he over drilled it because he probably didn't center the hole, and that's what caused it to be weak. With mine here, you can see I got the hole nice and centered. There's still a good bit of meat on each side. I'm not saying mine's not gonna break, but I'm a whole lot more confident in this than what we saw there. So I'm gonna go get it cut now, down to size, and we'll get everything put back together. Hammer time. Sorry, I'm gonna move you guys back a little bit. I got it apart. You can see just disgusting amounts of permatex put in here when all you would really had to do was replace the O-ring. And it still leaked, you know. You can see it looks like it had a pretty decent seal with all that goddamn permatex, but for some reason it was still letting all kinds of fluid out. So I'm gonna order this O-ring here, and god damn it, I just cleaned my hands. And we'll get back to this. Obviously I'm gonna put it back together and power wash it. I'm gonna pull this subframe out here and power wash it as well, so when it goes back together it's nice and clean. Oh, God. I gotta find a bunch of parts that are getting scattered all over the place now, and you know, this little brake line fittings so I don't lose them with the washers. But yeah, now I've got my remain seal, probably get that installed and go from there.